All right. Today I've got a special guest, Bryan Underwood. We're going to talk a little bit everything real estate, specifically get into property management. Bryan, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate you having me, man. Yeah, all things real estate. I'm a real estate geek over here.
Dude, I mean, when we first met, I remember it was like, okay, this dude was in self storage. He's a San Diego guy. Now he lives in Boise. Now he's a developer doing apartments. Now you're doing property management. Like, walk me through the evolution and like how the heck we ended up here.
Yeah, yeah. How much time we have? I guess it's always a dream of mine to build a company that was vertically integrated. So everything from acquiring property, designing, entitling, building, and ultimately managing. And I guess that comes from my family business where I really cut my teeth on development in San Diego, A1 Self Storage. I spent 10 years there in acquisitions, buying land, securing entitlements. But I saw firsthand like the value that is driven into that piece of real estate and that asset over time, having that vertically integrated company. So it's something I've always wanted to do. Now, how it actually like plays out, maybe time wise, is a little interesting. But ultimately, man, the game of real estate can be difficult at times, and you need to pivot sometimes, right? I it wasn't in my bingo card to launch our third party property management company this year, but acquisitions and development really slowed down and it gave us an opportunity to do that. Right. So, it's something I'm passionate about, actually more passionate about each and every day because it's extremely needed. And our focus there is like kind of small to mid size. It's 5 to 50 units. And right now we're just managing apartments.
Got it. And you kind of went the opposite direction from a lot of property managers that I see. Like from an investor standpoint, I see it where sometimes guys are doing property management and they start getting into investing, but I don't see it very often where somebody's managing their own stuff and then all of a sudden opens it up to third party where they're like, "Hey, I'll do your stuff. I'll do your stuff." Usually they're like, "Nah, I
Right.
don't want to deal with anybody else's problems."
That's yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so the property management came out of like my actual like frustration as an owner. So I guess if I had to sum it up is kind of twofold. One is I'm in the middle of like feeling this pain. And then I also meet a guy named Michael Ketchen, who is also a property manager, right? Manages his own stuff. And he's just like drilling in these numbers. And I'm sitting back here going, gosh, this guy's smart, makes a lot of sense. And he has all the same frustrations I have. And I'm like, it just makes a lot of sense to actually take control of your own stuff. And as you dive in there and you start realizing all of the problems that you're solving for yourself, I'm sitting back going, I'm not alone. Like everybody I talk to that owns like 5 to 50 units here in town in Boise or even San Diego, for where I'm from, none of them say positive things about their property management company. None of them. And like the only thing that makes sense to me, at least right now, with all the questions that I ask, is when you own a 5 to 50 unit property, you might have a very competent like property management company, but you have their D team on your property.
Mm.
And like that doesn't work for an owner. An owner sitting there going, I just spent millions of dollars, a ton of risk. Sometimes it's not even my own money. I might have raised it. And then I'm turning it over to like the D team to squeeze the juice out of the lemon. And it makes zero sense. And so, I mean, I went through years of frustration. And then, like I said, kind of finally this year in 25, it was like, this is the year for us to not only take control of our own properties, build a team out, start building the systems out. And then now we're actually marketing and trying to grow that as a third party platform.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting, and I've seen you talk about, is kind of your approach of taking the owner mentality in how you go about managing the property. Like, talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So one of the other things, so if you are like an institutional investor, okay, so what does that mean? Just think big dollars. Like I've got investors or I have partners where I can go buy a 200 unit apartment building, pick the city. Okay. You have institutional quality property management companies out there. And I'll name one like Greystar as an example. They're massive. They've got like, you're talking about billions of dollars under management. They have what's combined. They have an asset management team and they also have like a property management team, right? So your asset's big enough to kind of have both. So the asset management team is working with the owner on strategy. Like, what is the business plan of this asset? Why are we buying it to begin with? Where do we need to be in 6, 12, 18 months? Is this a renovation? So you're managing capital improvement. So there's a ton, like just the business plan. And then the property management company is supposed to implement, like they're the front lines. They go and take that business plan and they're the front lines going and like, basically like implementing, make sure that, so there's accountability between the asset management team and the property management team. When you have an owner that has 5 to 50 units, there's no asset management team. Okay. There's a property management team. And what I've experienced, even if I try to communicate what my business plan is to that property management team, they just flat out don't get it. And so as an owner, like I care deeply about like, why are we buying this? What type of loan do we have? Are we in the middle of a refinance or do we have like a gun to our head where we need to refinance? Is this like we're trying to get this full to sell it in 3 years? Or, this what is the business plan? And so when I interact with owners, I'm saying, what do you guys want to do? Like, what are you owning this forever? Like, obviously, I've got a team that can squeeze that juice out of the lemon and we can make as much money as we possibly can. But like, I need to know what we're managing. So, like, I guess one small example would be we're onboarding a 5 unit here in Boise. And I met this guy through a broker referral. And so in my sort of onboarding email to him, it's like, hey, Tom, if you have a property condition assessment report, like when you acquired this asset, that's extremely helpful to me as your property manager. And he's like blown away by that. Like, what property manager even knows what a property condition assessment report is? And if you don't know, simply put, if you've ever purchased a house or you own a home, you've had like a home inspection, right? Like the lender wants it, you want it. It's very similar, but for a commercial property. So it's going through all the different components of that apartment building. What's the age of the roof? What's the condition of the roof? What do the sinks look like? What do the drains look like? Do they have garbage disposals? Do they work? Do the toilets flush? Right? They're going through all these little pieces. And so if I'm managing someone's property, like I want to know I'm not in like next week the roof is going to cave in because we have got a little bit of snow in Boise, and like 5 years ago the PCA property condition assessment report, the PCA said you need to replace your roof. Like I want to know that, right? And that's not common for a property management company to ask those questions. But again, putting the owner hat on, like this is what we do. We buy property, we do our due diligence, we know what we're buying, and then we need to implement a business plan. And so part of our offer, right, as a property management company is we're stepping in as like your quasi like asset manager. And we're also the front line. So like we're going to play both parts for you. And I just in our short run here, like really well received by small owners.
Mm. Yeah. Do you like what's that feedback been like on the back end when you're actually being proactive in some of these things, addressing problems with that in mind, like an asset manager would? Are they like, does that surprise carry over? Like, does that ever end? The guy who asks or is surprised that you asked for the
Not yet.
report.
Not yet, right? Like they're saying like you're speaking my language. Like
Yeah.
they know like I'm asking the questions the same way as if like I bought the property. And they're like, that's not typically a manager,
Yeah.
right?
Well, every
That's
business
not
owner wants their team, anybody that they bring on, vendor, agency, whatever, to care about their money as if it's theirs.
that's right.
And that's what you're doing, right? We were talking earlier that like when you can articulate somebody's problem better than they can, they assume you have the answer. And so because you actually have the experience of having done it, you're not just like wordsmithing your way into a sale. You're like, no, I know what you actually care about. I mean, you're doing it with 5 units. I've done it with hundreds. Like this is a cakewalk.
Yeah, that's right. And then like maybe the second part of that equation, right, is like so it's property management with like asset management like intertwined or interweaved into that, right? The other part of that is, I mean, I've taken all of this year with my team and we've walked through like what are my biggest pain points as an owner as I interact with and sort of manage the property manager. And what we're trying to do is
Mm,
solve all of those,
mm,
right? And we can reduce it down to really a handful, but I will tell you one of the biggest things that we've done that is not necessarily unique to everybody, maybe nationwide, but it is quite unique, right? Is that as a property management company, what's common is that we assess our fee, how we get paid on income that we collect. And I have always had an issue with that. As an owner, I'm thinking, okay, gross income is meaningful. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean that much to me as an owner. As an owner, everything is driven off of NOI. If I'm going to get a loan this year, my NOI needs to be at a certain dollar amount so I get the right amount of proceeds, right? If I'm going to sell, it's all based on a cap rate or like even future income if markets are good. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, we're not aligned. Like, we just aren't aligned. You care about gross income, and then I have to spend all my time diving in the monthly P&L, sometimes having weekly meetings with these management teams to say, hey, you charged me twice for apartments.com. You gave me 3 leasing incomes and you didn't lease 1 unit. I mean, I spend a lot of time managing the manager. I thought, you know what? All this is really solved. A lot of this, not all of it, a lot of it is solved. Call it 90% of the issues if we directly align ourselves with the owner and we pay our fee on NOI, not gross collected income. So the math is the same. And I'll just use round numbers. I've got a bunch of sheets in my management contract so they could actually see side by side that the dollar amounts are the same. It's about 100 basis points difference. So if someone's charging 5% on gross collected income, I'm charging 6% on NOI. We back out property taxes, we back out insurance, and we back out capital improvements. So it's everything that the manager is in control of. But now I've got my team like hyper focused on my properties and everyone else's like, well, what are we spending? Why are we spending that? What do we need to fix here? And like, that's what I care about as an owner. I want a team that's going, we don't like our trash bill should be $350. Why is it $1,500? Like you're talking about 20, 30K of value in trash. Like, well, more. That's like 1 month, right? Like, I mean, it's out of
Mhm.
control. I like it blows my mind. I'm going, can we fix this? And every property management company that I've ever interacted with, they'll jump in with you and say, "Oh yeah, let's go figure it out." But if you're not on them weekly, it'll be months down the road before they actually solve the problem. Where
Yeah,
like my team's
and
like,
you had to catch it as opposed to they should have caught it.
Yeah, I'm like, I bought this and the trash bill is 350. Now it's 1500. We got a problem. And they're like, huh? What do you mean? Right? Like it just doesn't resonate.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, again, it doesn't solve all the issues, but it solves a lot of the issues because the team cares about expenses. And so that's just a way that we found to have our internal team here care about expenses. Your income depends on it, like straight up. Your income depends on it. Well, it starts to matter.
It seems common sense, but I've never heard of another property manager doing this.
Well, I have yet to to find another one. B, I have asked a bunch of people in my network, how did us as owners ever let this happen? Like, how did gross collected income even become a thing? No one has
Mhm.
an answer. We just onboarded the Appfolio, which is like a really cool software. We were on Buildium before. Appfolio has a lot of bells and whistles, and it helps our systems. So the point is I asked this is the guy that he is in charge with doing demos. Okay. And I did like 3 demos with him because I like to ask a bunch of questions. And I said, okay, every single property management software that I demo, I put in how I want my fee to be assessed. And it's all on some sort of gross income. Mine's on net operating income. Where's that button? And he said, doesn't exist. And in fact, I've never had anybody ask me that. And I'm like, my mind is blown. I'm like, what do you mean? There's not one other person in the entire nation that has asked you to assess their fee on net operating income. He's like, no, but I could put in a request, And I'm like, yeah, please do. Because I don't take my fee right away, right? Like I have to take my fee actually like the next month because we have to have the full month snapshot, right?
Mhm.
So like month ends, we start doing a reconciling and then I can determine what my fee is. Then I can take my fee for the month before and then send out my reports and distributions to owners. And most people, it's like, I mean, as soon as that income's collected, they're like, push the button, put the money over, right? So it's like, it's different processes for us, but it's like it can be figured out. It's just like the biggest thing is like we're now aligned.
Has it created an additional, like, accounting lift because of all the tracking of expenses and getting to NOI?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time to go through it one time with our back end accounting team, But once you have it figured out, it's just a rinse and repeat.
Mm.
We charge like on the properties if it's so again, our percentage is on net operating income, so it's a point higher than call it what's common in the marketplace. But if a property grosses under 14,000 a month, we're 7% of NOI, and if it's more than 14,000 a month, we're 6% of NOI. So that would be equivalent to like 5% or 6%, right, depending on the size. Other than me saying this property is 6% or this property 7%, other than that and them having that, like once we have our accounting, we go through it, the numbers there, it's a on Appfolio, the reporting is like it's like a below line item. It's not in the actual expenses, right? It's like a below line item, and that's we take it there. And once you do it one time, it's pretty easy. It's just it took some thought. That's all. A little bit of
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. I've talked to some guys about this with that do property management internal and in how they design the pay plan for, their regional managers, their property managers, where they do their own property management, but they're not servicing anybody else.
Yeah.
And this has kind of come up where it's like, instead of doing it off of NOI, we've done some stair steps. And the idea being that, like, how do I actually see the impact that you're having? Because just by showing up, we're going to collect a certain amount of rent.
Right.
And so even if we're
Right.
going off of gross rents, it's like some of this is just going to come in the door. And so how do I actually see the impact that you're having here? And so what we've done is give stair steps. So like, again, for easy numbers, we would do like, there's a percentage that they get paid up into maybe 90% occupancy. And then from 90 to 93, they get a bigger percentage. So they get to participate more as they're pushing occupancy higher. And then we also have percentages for collections. So that are less than what they would have collected on rent. So it's still incentivizing them to go after collections,
Yep.
but they're not getting incentivized equally because some of these guys had structures in place where it's like they were just monitoring total dollars collected. And so it didn't matter if you collected it on time or not. I'm still
Right.
paying you the same percentage. And so we said, hey, let's incentivize them for pushing occupancy higher, allow them to participate even more when they start getting up to, 95, 96, 97% occupancy. But also let's make sure that they're not getting rewarded as much for collections, but that there's still an incentive for them to go after them. Because what I don't want to do is create the scenario where somebody is going to put the wrong tenant in place in order to drive occupancy.
For
And
sure.
so it's that quality and quantity counterbalance is what I'm always looking for when we do like metrics, scorecards, that kind of thing. But a lot of times come into play in designing pay plans. And it sounds like you've taken it to like a whole other level with the NOI piece. But I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I like it. I'm actually like my head has gone there, but like we're still young where I don't have those in place. And so you're like, I mean, we'll probably work together on this, I would think, in the future, right? Because it's like I look at them like, okay, so there's like base salary, and then there's some incentives that we have in place, and nothing like crazy, but it's like if we can grow the company, like you're incentivized. But there's a bunch of these KPI like nuances, right, that you're talking about, right? So it's
Mhm.
like not just like okay, like they have a leasing commission, but my leasing commission is actually the same as a renewal, right? So most of the time, the leasing commission is significantly more, and I always had issue with that. I want like it costs me as an owner thousands of dollars, and I don't. I battle this in my head, right? Because I still got to make sure there's a 90-day out. Then you got to pull up the file and look at the tenant ledger and make sure they're a tenant that we want to keep, and then we have some like SOPs to get them to renew. But like I want them to renew, and I want the leasing manager to renew. Like that saves me thousands of dollars and it's much easier for them to get that leasing commission, right? But I now need to make sure how do we belt and suspender around renewing a bad tenant, right? Like right now I have my pulse on everything, but when we grow to thousands of units, I'm not going to have my pulse on everything. It's, it's going to be at a much higher level, right? So I need to still think through some of those things. Obviously, if we're growing NOI, like you're doing your job, you're meaningful to the team, you should be incentivized as we grow that NOI, right? If we're renewing tenants, they're incentivized. If we have certain occupancy, you're incentivized on the maintenance. That's another thing I got to think through, right? Like maintenance requests, how obviously like time that we're taking them in to the time complete, right? Like managing those things. Those take like there's a lot of different systems out there, but it still takes a body, someone who's checking in and making sure everything's good. And so there's a lot of different ways I think you can incentivize the team. I'm still working on a lot of that.
Yeah. Walk me through, because you described kind of like big picture, going from acquisitions into
Yeah.
development into property management. If you could go back, would you go in that same order or would you change it up? Would you go in the reverse? Would it be better to learn something else before the other?
Yeah, like development is my passion.
Mm,
And I just was lucky enough to have a family business that developed. And I fought my way in and got into that business. And I spent 10 years acquiring land and securing entitlements for development. And so I didn't know I was going to love it as much as I did, but I just loved the process. I was a part of their company, right? They were vertically integrated. Like I had my base salary, I had my incentives, right? Like all of that stuff. But like I wish I knew when I left that company, I wish I would have known how much like a steady stream of income is needed in this game, particularly in development. If you want to focus on development or you want to develop property, like it's almost impossible. You can do it. I don't want to like diminish anybody out there, but it is very difficult to grow an office just developing property because deals come and go and they take a long stinking time. And so if you're out there raising funds and you're acquiring property, you're fee generating, right? Boom, 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 boom. You're not doing that when you're developing property. It takes years. I'm not out there like doing 25 properties at once. You're doing like one or two, right? So, like, I could feed myself, like, that was never an issue. But when you're trying to grow a company and you're trying to build that office so you're ready to keep that, like, the company growing in the trajectory you want with like bigger projects and everything else, it's been challenging to keep people because it's like, I don't have a next project, right? So, property management, it's a steady stream of income. So if you can grow that, so like had I left and just started on property management with everything that I knew from development, right? Like we would be, first of all, I think we would just be much further along. I don't know that for sure, right? But being able to have that income and growing it over time, being able to keep the key people in the seats and not have to lose them to other companies. And then when that opportunity comes and the people that come into town here and they're like, hey, we want to go build a 200 unit. I'm like, sweet. I would have been ready to like take that on. And right now I'm not, right? Like I can go build like a 75 unit, a 200 unit. Nope, not me. I'd like to go figure it out, but like having that team, I would have had like all the confidence in the world to just be like, yeah, we could take that on. So I think I would have started with property management. I didn't because I love development. So I just jump in and figure it out. Right. But I was a team of one until like 2 years ago. And I was a team of one for the reasons I'm just sharing with you. And I would have been much further ahead if I was property manager first.
that makes sense. Talk to me a little bit about that perspective when it comes to. I noticed a little bit of a difference, and I've heard a couple guys talk about this. The investors that manage their own stuff versus the investors that utilize third party property management seem to have somewhat of a different perspective. And I had a conversation with an investor, mm, maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where he was describing this difference of guys who operate their own stuff and property manage versus use third party. And he was saying from a fiduciary standpoint, they even have a different perspective because the guy who third party property manages, he is looking at his responsibility to investors as number one priority. Like, I just got to keep the investors happy. And this is just kind of like one of the functions and how we do it. But the guy who does it himself understands like the whole process. And the way this guy put it was, he said, my number one priority is to take care of the team that takes care of the residents. Because if I take care of the team that takes care of the residents, then the residents are taken care of and they're going to be happy. And if the residents are taken care of and happy, then long term, my investors are going to be happy. And so my
Yeah.
true fiduciary responsibility is actually to the team, the property management, the on the ground team that's taking care of the residents to make sure that they're as happy as can be in place long term so that my investors long term get the biggest bang for buck, and that it's short sighted to think your fiduciary responsibility is just, hey, let me just take care of the investors. And I noticed this pattern come up with guys who operate their own stuff and manage and guys who don't, where it seems to kind of create this divide.
Well, so I've lived through this a little bit. Like we acquired a property 20 units in San Diego, right on Mission Bay. This is like a beautiful, irreplaceable coastal asset, right? But we acquired it. We're not alone. If you bought property in 21 and 22, you felt pain, period. We acquired it middle of 21. This property hasn't made any money. What we're doing, all we've done is to do our best to protect our investors' capital. Now, over time, it's a coastal asset in San Diego. It will make money. It's just hasn't hit any of our projections. And if you've lived in this real estate world or been in it over the last 4 years, you know why. I'm not going to reiterate all of that stuff. But the point is when we've had we're about to go to our fifth manager in 4 years on that asset. Okay. It's pretty painful to just transition a property management company. I'm actually trying to figure out internally how we do that better. So I have like a one sheet that I give owners. I sent one out today that just says, hey, this is all I need from you. I'm going to do the rest. But this is a little like a one sheet that shows you exactly what's going to happen. Because from an owner, I've had a lot of pain points. Like we transition and I feel like I spend a month of my time transitioning and then I got to educate them on how I want it managed. Let's go back to the actual question is I specifically did not manage this property because I thought it was a conflict of interest. Okay. That was in my head. I remember talking to my partners about it like, man, we need to take this over and manage it, but I don't know how we do that and like keep the fiduciary responsibility to our investors and not I didn't like the way it looked. And I probably didn't ask enough questions because we just went through a bunch of pain and ultimately I just took it over and now we're managing it. And I will tell you, I actually talked to a few of the investors, not all of them, but I talked to a few of them like, how is this going to look? And they're like, please manage it. Right. Like the investors were saying, please, like we would prefer you manage it. Like we know it's been a struggle. Like all of my updates are like, we're just battling managing the managers all the time. Like if you have it, at least you've got your pulse on what's actually happening. At least you can give us KPIs. Like we can't even get KPIs out of these guys. We don't have no idea what they're doing.
There's a sense of control.
Right. So now it's like, okay, we know you're going to do a better job because we can't even get answers out of them. And so it's one of those like I learned that lesson like kind of the hard way a little bit. Like I was thinking, hey, I just need to have the investors in mind. And now I absolutely echo what you had shared about with the other guy. Like, it's all about like, how are we treating that asset? That asset is what takes care of the investors, right? Like, period. So that's like front lines. Is like, how do we do that better? This is absolutely paramount. If we do this better, then we take care of our investors. We don't like so I absolutely agree with what you had said. And like that's a perfect example in my world of like, wish I would have done it sooner.
What's what's some of the differences in managing stuff in Boise versus San Diego?
Buddy. So
They're eerily similar, right?
Idaho is land of the free. It's the promised land. It's a lot of things. So love San Diego, hometown, my heart's there, right? A lot of family, a lot of friends. It's a very difficult place to do business. And you've heard that. I'm going to give you just a couple small examples. So like property management is not the easiest business in general, but I will say like having started one in Idaho and now taking over one in California, I had to like I'm also a licensed broker in California, so I can manage property there if I want to. So there's a lot of different rules. In Idaho, the entire world can wake up in Idaho tomorrow and say, I want to be a property manager and become a property manager. And it's up to you, your business acumen, like how you sell yourself and how you perform. You can be as successful as you want. You don't need anything. You could just manage property. In San Diego, you have to be a licensed broker. You also it has to be a corporation, can't be an LLC. Any property that has more than 16 units has to have an on-site manager. An on-site manager has to become an employee of the company and you have to pay them. It can't just be rent free. In Idaho, my forms every single year cost me about $300 to renew my like leasing forms and everything to do business. In California, it's $3,000 a year for the forms. My lease in Idaho is about 10 pages long. My lease in California is 90 pages long. The disclosures in California tell the tenant every single way they can screw the property owner, and you have to disclose it. I mean, I can go on and on and on. It's just like it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal, and it like candidly scares me to death. Like managing property there, it just does. I'll go
The
build property there.
the 16 unit on-site manager has to just crush some guys
Yeah,
or just kill your deals where you got an 18 unit or a 20 unit and you're like, dang, these extra 4 units don't cash flow enough to pay for the on-site guy I have to have.
but I mean, even if you talk to a property manager, like that's not often in people's underwriting. Just like you,
Sure.
they'll just. I mean, if they're like older, more bigger properties, more sophisticated, maybe. Like it wasn't in mine, and I felt like I was like pretty sophisticated. Like been doing this for a really long time. I understand it, and I didn't put in like what the manager unit. So it's like, yeah, I mean, this one unit that should rent for 2,300 $2,300 a month. I'm leasing to him, our on-site manager, for 1450, and then I'm paying him another $200 a month, right? So he's like net 1250 on a $2,300 unit. Like put that in your underwriting at like a
Yeah.
4 cap. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, and then the other side of it is that, you're not necessarily attracting the best talent because what you're doing is you're saying, gosh, I'm going to give them my assumption is that what most owners are going to do is they're going to say, I'm going to give them the worst unit in the building so that I don't affect my gross rents as much. And so now what type of quality of a property manager are you attracting by giving them the worst unit in the building as opposed to going like, hey, I can have an A player over here who owns his own home down the street, whatever, who cares? And he can still manage the property completely proficiently without living on site.
yeah, it's tough. Unfortunately, that rule is they literally need to live there. Yeah, it makes zero sense. And like you used to be able to like offset it with directly with just rent. And
Mhm.
somewhere along the way, somebody sued somebody. Who knows, right? Could have been SB9. Who knows, right? Now they have to be an employee. Like you
Hmm.
have to pay them it could. There's actually like a rule, like whatever the unit would rent for, I can't give them more than 2/3 of that of their pay in rent reduction. I mean, just it's been painful. I will tell you, it's just been painful. And like halfway through, like we're gonna take it over because there's no other good option out there. But halfway through, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm trying to grow my portfolio here in Boise. I still have properties there. I care about them deeply, but like I was like I was like reviewing the rules and like always, and I'm like, wow, we're gonna do it, but it's
Yeah.
gonna hurt.
So is there a lot more competition in Boise because it's such a lower barrier to entry?
It's a good question. So what you have in every market, this is the way that I would describe competition in general, and it's why we focus on 5 to 50 units. Is you have the very large companies that are established, been around a long time, and arguably probably do a good job for the right client, right? Or right customer. And all of their A team or B team are on larger properties. And so they can manage your 5 unit, they can manage your 10 unit, they can manage your 20 unit. Oftentimes they're going to charge you like 10% of gross income because it's not worth their time and effort. And then you're going to get the D team on top of that. So that's like one side of the coin, right? The other side is you have a lot of people. So where the competition really lies are people that manage single family homes. So, I mean, I know a ton of people in town that have like 350. I'm like, how many units do you manage? 350? How many apartments? None. They're all single family homes. And it's needed. They make money. I'm not discounting it, but anybody can do it. Like literally anybody can do it. Like single
Yeah,
family
lower
homes,
lift.
it's a low lift. Like I know a great guy in town here, awesome dude. Not gonna name his name, but like he's a sheriff. Like that's his day job, and he manages property too. I'm like,
Mhm.
so you could be a full-time sheriff and manage property. You can't do that with apartments, but you can do that with single family homes because it's just like you just need somebody kind of like making sure the house doesn't burn down. You got good tenants in there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're cutting the lawn, the neighbors like them. It's not really that hard. So those guys sometimes try to make the jump to apartments and they're clueless. They just have no idea what they're doing. It's
Mm,
apples and oranges once you get to like 5 units. That's why we're there. So it's been my frustration. It's what I've noticed in the marketplace is you just have this missing middle, and that's what we're going after. 5 to 50 units.
yeah. Interesting. Talk to me a little bit about the what I assume would be potential like redundancies that you're seeing between property management companies and the asset managers, right? Because obviously you being able to do both at once is a huge advantage. for the people that you're serving. And I was having a conversation with another property manager where they were talking about some of the changes that their company was making around the asset management side of the business because of some of the potential, like, not conflicts of interest, but just misalignments and then redundancies where it's like, hey, maybe this should just be more of one thing than two separate things, particularly when you have a stabilized asset. Like, we're
Yeah.
not going through any big monstrous business plan lift, to get this stabilized. It's already up, running, has great occupancy. There's no real crazy business plan that we're trying to execute on that the asset manager is crucial to, that the property manager can't already be helping with.
Sure. Yeah. I would say so if I'm taking over a stabilized asset, so I am, right? We're onboarding a 5 unit right now. It's full. So we're taking over. We're gonna jump right into management, right? My asset level management, call it value add, right, is on the front end interacting with the owner. So I can understand what do you want to achieve with this, right? It's not like it requires anything different from my team because he's already done the value add, right? Like, had he come to me 3 years ago when we were doing this and he's like, hey, we're going to buy this. We need someone to manage it, but I need a local team to like actually do the capital improvements on this. Like, we are well suited for that, right? I've got a bunch of great subs in here. I've got a superintendent that would love to be back on my team like tomorrow. Like, we could soup to nuts all of that. But at the end of the day, like, I've got a management team that is going to operate this thing. So some people are going to need it up front. At least I need to understand what you're trying to achieve. And then other people might need it like as we go. So not everybody has, they're out of state. They're like, who are the local lenders? Right? Who loans on this? And it's like, I could actually go facilitate that process for them, right? And just like, let me go. I have all the financials. I know your property. Let me go talk to the lenders, right? Give me the profile of the type of borrower that you are, as much as you'd like to share, so I can speak intelligently about you, your portfolio. Let me go get some term sheets for you, right? Just so you can just have an understanding of like what's in the marketplace, right? And
This
then
is like
from there,
additional services, or you're just
no, so
including this for your clients?
no, this is so I don't charge more for the asset management stuff. It's just like I can jump in where needed because I do it, right? Like, I do it for myself. I'm doing it right now. We're going through a refinance on one of my properties. So it's like I've already built these relationships. I don't know everybody, but I'm continue to meet people. So I have that value add for we have a lot of out of town investors. A guy I had a phone call today with, right? He's in Hermosa Beach. He owns actually quite a few properties in town. He's like, man, I was just in town last week. I wish we had this conversation last week. I would have met you. I said, well, you'll be back in town. Come to my office. Let's go grab a bowl of soup, a cup of coffee. Let's talk more. And it's like, it's just so
Bowl of
anyway.
soup, is that a Boise thing? I've never heard anybody say, let's go meet up for a bowl of soup.
Okay, you're the second person that's asked me that in about 3 weeks. Okay, so that is my grandfather who is dear to my heart. He's 95 years old. I get my dirt junkie. Let's call me a dirt junkie for a second. Okay. I get that shtick from him. Like I watch him in action. I'm like, oh dear gosh, I know what I'm gonna be like when I'm 95. God willing, I live there. So it's just his line, man. And I just love it. Anybody like he talks to somebody on the phone, he's like, why don't you come into town? We'll have a bowl of soup. And I'm like, I love that line. So I stole it from him. And I always get a response like, yeah, let's go have a bowl of soup, or like, what's up with the bowl of soup thing, dude? Just like that. It's I mean, I had soup today. It's a little cold outside, you know? Let's go have a bowl of soup and let's talk shop.
Oh, that's great, man. Do you have anything in place to make sure that you're not doing too much? Because it sounds like, I mean, you're doing the asset management, you're doing the property management, you're helping with the refis, like,
Yeah, so we're not doing there will be a time, but that's where, working with like candidly, working with people like yourself, right, to help us identify what those blind spots are as we grow our company. So, I mean, I know there's some strategic seats that I need to fill, and it has to do with, the size of our management team. So, our next big hurdle is 100 units. And we can go with the team right now with our systems. We're at 48 today. We can go to 100 units and not miss a beat. Like we would do just fine. Going from 100 to 200, there will be a little bit of some massaging on the team, right? We're going to have to add a little bit. Once we have that team built around 200 units, I believe we could scale that team probably up to 2,000 units and not have to add one seat. So it's like we just have to, between now and 100 units, let's get there because that's like a cash flow kind of metric for us. And then when we get to 200 units, that's the next cash flow where I can add some strategic seats. We're not making a ton of money as a team, but the overhead is stable and we got it covered. And from there, really sky's the limit. I'm with those strategic seats. There's going to be some real estate managers, but I would really love, I always, people think I'm a CFO sometimes when they talk to me. They're like, "Oh, you function as a CFO." I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of do everything." So back to your point, right? Like I do a lot. But like I would love to have a true CFO. I don't need them in a seat, but I would love them in a seat. I would love them here looking after the everything, right?
Mm.
Like they're the ones that are just taking all the data. So it's like it could be like a little controller slash CFO, but someone who is aggregating all the data. I'm a data geek. I love looking at data. I love saying, let's look at this, let's drill in here. I need help with that because I don't have time to do that, right? We're like refining as we go, but someone that's just like, tell us what we need to do, tell us where we're going, let's plan, where do we need to be? So that guy's sitting in a seat and he's like, dude, we need 50 units because of this. Like in the next 60 days, I'll go get it. I will. I'll go get it. Like I'll go find those 60 units, 50 units to go manage. But it's like, it's so I just like a little bit of help on the back end that like I can kind of see where the office needs to be. Obviously, maybe it's offsite, maybe it's internal, but some real dedicated time on like what that looks like. Obviously a budget around it. But my back of the napkins, like 100 units, 200 units. And then I think from there, we could actually do quite a bit.
It's super unique what you're offering. Like it's like a to me, it's like you're a one of one. And so it's eliminating like any competition because we're having two different conversations here. Do you want somebody that does this? You want somebody to do does this? If you want this, like we're not really for you. We do this. Talk to me a little bit about your unique acquisition strategy right now and how you're finding some of these property owners.
So we're doing a little bit of like social media presence, not paid, but like social media presence. I
Hmm.
did do a little bit of pay. I shouldn't say that. A little bit of pay strategically right here in Boise. I want people to like see my face, like know, trust us, like us type of thing. Right. And that just helps because people are scrolling on phones and they're going, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that guy. I've seen that guy. So we're doing a little bit of that. Have direct to owner cold calling. And in fact, I've got my twin boys learning how to cold call. They're in the office one day a week. It's awesome. Moses, one of my sons, earned his first $25 because he scheduled a meeting and I actually had him on the phone. Like they're
Heck yeah.
incentivized. If they schedule a meeting and I get to have a phone call with them, they earn $25. If I land that deal, they get $250, right? So like for me, like that's awesome to watch them painfully learn how to cold call, but they're getting better at it every time they do it, right?
Yeah.
But that's really helping me. Like literally the guy that called me today, um, he picked up the phone and he's like, "Hey, I just got a voicemail from your 11-year-old son, and I just find that like thoroughly intriguing. Like, talk to me more. Like, what is going on over there, right?" And
Yeah.
so, obviously, get to talk to him about my kids being in the office and learning, and we homeschool. A little bit of the story, San Diego to Boise. Here's what we do, right? And I could hear him going, yeah, that's all my frustrations, right? So, hey, next time you're in town, come in and I follow up with an email. So, cold call. We
Basically, you're
also
like,
do.
hey, we're able to undercut all the competition by utilizing child labor, which is why you should go with us.
That's it. That's it.
I want to talk to your boys after this though to help them renegotiate their comp plan because it
Yeah.
sounds like there may be some work we could do there.
Yeah. Well, they're stoked on it. So don't. Uh, so we also work with real estate agents. So real estate agents like realtors that buy and sell homes. Sometimes they have clients and I know they do. Sometimes they have clients, right? That says, hey, I want to go buy this 10 unit. They have no idea how to do that. So we have contacted almost every single one in the area to let them know, hey, for free, we're not asking for a paycheck. We just want to earn the management contract. Like we do this for a living. Let us guide you and help you so you can make sure that this is as successful as possible. I want to give you the playbook so you can look like a rock star to your client, right? Like, wow, you've done this before. No, I haven't, but so all the due diligence, what you need to be looking for, lenders, get the property manager involved early so we can do help with underwriting, right? So it's like a free service, but I want to earn the management contract. And then third is commercial real estate brokers who are actually out there buying and selling like, 5 to 50 unit properties. So we have like their affiliates, we have a referral fee to them. Most of the people, they're like, cool. I just want to make sure my clients are taken care of. Like, money's great, but like, I need a good go to for my clients because right now I don't have any. And I keep hearing that more and more. So I've had like 2 phone calls recently just on those broker referrals. So there's not a lot of transactions happening right now, but that's the best time for me to land a management contract is transactions, right? Because they're going through it. They're going to be onboarding this property anyway. So I think when transactions pick up, that will be a really good lead generator for us.
Yeah. Tell me, who is the right investor for you? How does somebody know that they're the right fit for what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we occasionally raise money. We occasionally build projects. We occasionally buy and renovate projects. I think location is huge, obviously, but like I'm a huge like I love loyalty. I love people. I like communicating with people. I like people that like real estate. I love geeking out on it. And it's like there's a lot of different groups out there. There's a lot of good groups out there, but it's somebody that says, I like the idea of development. That's primarily what we do. So development, in my mind, it's a lot less risky than actually renovating projects. I'd love to chat with you about that if you're a little bit like, I wonder what that means. The value add component, right? So like oftentimes I'm building something for, I'll use small numbers. I'm building something for $5 million, and the day it's leased up, it's worth seven. Like, you just created a bunch of value, right? And so one of the things that we've done here in Boise pretty well is we put our own general contracting team together, which adds even more value. So what someone was building for five, I'm building for 4.5, right? And that's like direct value to me as an owner and all of our investors, like being able to do that process better. So not sure if that answered your question, but there you go.
Yeah. Where can people connect with you if they want to keep up with everything that you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, best place is my website, which is responsiblerE.com. You can find all the links on responsiblere.com.
Awesome. And that's for anything on the development side as well as on the property management side?
Correct.
Cool. We'll link that in the show notes. Man, this was super fun, super insightful. Uh, Property owners in Boise, Idaho with 5 to 50 is
That's it.
essentially who should be reaching out for property management needs.
That's it. That's the sweet spot. That's where we can add, in my opinion, the most value. I mean, I've had people reach out with duplexes and fourplexes, and I'm pretty selective. I want to work with good people. And so I do my best to try to qualify people. And not that I will say no to a 2 unit, but I'm not adding much value to you as an owner having a 2 unit. A 10 unit, I'm adding a ton of value. And I'd love to have that conversation with you.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Any final thoughts, final words before we get out of here?
Ian's a stud.
Uh,
Ian's a
glad
stud. Yeah,
I
buddy.
paid you to say that. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on, Bryan. This was super good, super unique perspective that I think people need to be wrapping their head around when it comes to how they think about their third party property managers or bringing their property management in house.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.